If you're living in the UK or Europe, let eRides provide you with all your PEV needs.
What's up, everybody? Sensei here. Welcome to the show. Welcome to another video. And this is going to be a little bit different. This is just going to be a straight discussion video. I think it's pretty cool to take and just kind of change it up a little bit. And I'm going to piggyback off of Mixed God Flip's latest upload. So definitely go check out his video. I will try to link it in the description below. I might not have time because I am shooting this thing on the fly. So if you see my hand shaking around and everything, I apologize because I'm just free holding this camera with no tripod. But basically, I just want to discuss about riding in an EUC in New York City. And I'm going to tell y'all how I learned how to ride in New York City. Now, I'm going to use my experience of learning how to ride a bike in New York City, but it's going to translate basically the same way, okay? So I moved to New York City from Pittsburgh in like 95. I didn't know anybody up here. Started a new job. And I start being pretty cool with some of the guys, asking where I was from and things like that. So one of the guys, Magnix, actually gave me a Trek road bike. And I love that bike, man. I still wish I had that bike to this day. So I'd ride that bike around New York City, sightseeing and just trying to teach myself the lay of the land, so to speak. And I became really good friends with one of the guys named Russell. And we were always talk about, like different things that we got on the topic of talking about bikes. And I had actually rode my road bike in one night, and he was actually trying to convince me into getting a mountain bike. He had a nice mountain bike. Really, really nice. I think it was a Janus at the time, and it was a high-end Janus. I love that bike. It was really, really nice. So I was like, oh, I don't know. And finally, I just bit the bullet, and I was like, you know what? Pulled the trigger, and I ended up getting a GT mountain bike. And at that time, it was a good GT. Okay, I spent a lot of money on that bike. So we had actually planned to. I used to work the overnight. Now, I worked at the hotel. It was at the Omni Burke, 52nd and Madison. I don't even know if I said that, but I'll just repeat it. 52nd and Madison, the Omni Burke. We used to work the overnight, and we'd work from 11:30 to 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So our plan was to ride from the Omni Burke to Flatbush, Brooklyn. All right, so we get out of work. Russ takes off on his bike, and I jump on my bike. And I'm on the sidewalk riding. He's like, what the hell are you doing? I said, I'm riding. He goes, we don't ride like that in NYC. We ride on the streets. He's like, get that bike in the street and come on. I'm like, dude, with all this traffic? He's like, yeah. This was 7 in the morning, 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday. And it still was more traffic than what I was used to riding in. So I hop on the road and he's riding. Now, he's not riding as fast as he could ride, but he's still moving pretty good. And he's just giving me a crash course on what to do and what not to do. And I'm being the best student I could be, considering the situation that we were in. And you could literally see beads of sweat just pouring down my face and see my heart beating through my shirt. That is the feeling I had riding on the streets of NYC. I'm talking about really riding on the streets of NYC for the first time. And I finally, I realized very quickly what people consider riding a bike in some other cities or some other towns. Nah, New York City is just a completely different beast. It's its own planet. It's its own entity when it comes to riding. So, I'm doing my best to keep up. He's cutting in and out of traffic, riding up the center line. And then sometimes we'd be riding, parallel to each other. And he explains certain things to me, how to read when cars are going to turn. You wash their front tires, and it just different things, man. The dude was a freaking genius on the road. And we finally make it into Brooklyn, and we hook up with his cousin Brian. And his cousin Brian was probably more of a daredevil ride than what Russell was. He liked my bike. He's like, all right, man, let's see what you can do on it. And we blast out of Brooklyn, out of Flatbush, and we're heading back into the city. And our destination was gonna be Central Park. And I'm trying to keep up with these brothers, man. And it was just like, and the whole time was just like, wow. If anyone's seen that movie, Quicksilver, and then they did a remake of it recently, well, a few years back, called Rush, that's what it was like riding with them dudes. Hands down, one of my favorite experiences ever when I had, since I've been living in the city, these dudes could ride. So, I'm doing the best I can, ducking in and out of traffic, riding up the center line. I don't think they hitched on to any cars or anything like that, but they were moving at a pretty good clip, blowing through red lights. First couple lights, man, I wanted to put the brakes on. Like, what are you doing? If it's clear, man, you keep on riding. So I'm like, all right. So we're blasting through the lights. And then we get up, we get into Manhattan, we ride up to Central Park, we do a few laps through Central Park. Russ goes back to the Bronx. Brian heads back to Flatbush, and then I go back down, of course, back down to 36th Street, West 36, where I live. But that day changed the way that I rode forever. You know what I mean? I would constantly ride for keeps when I would ride my mountain bike on the street. It was like life or death. You know what I mean? And some of the things that I want to explain to y'all, what I would see, just around the city, it was normal to come out and see a sheet on the ground and a body laying up underneath it, whether it was pedestrian getting smacked by a car or some biker, getting run over. You would see this all the time in New York. It was the norm. It was just the amount of traffic and the amount of people, walking on the road or riding on the road, things would happen. So I learned that you have to ride very defensively up here. You have to do things that riding somewhere else you normally wouldn't do. And that same riding style actually carries over into the EUC riders. And one thing that used to fascinate me was the bike messengers in New York City. Hands down, some of the best riders that I've ever seen in my life. The stuff that they would do on them things was just, Nitro Circus had nothing on them. I'm being honest. Some dudes are phenomenal riders. Incredible. So I look at the New York EUC riders, and to me, they're like the messengers of the mid 90s and the stuff that they would do. It's like that's how they ride. That's their style. And I give them props and I give them respect, because you have to ride that way to keep yourself safe in New York City. I think to some people that are on the outside looking in, it looks unsafe, but it's not. You really have to ride for keeps up here. I know with what's going on now with the 1-9 Rona, there's not as much traffic up here. I mean, it's getting back to that, but it's still not as much as it used to be. But you still have to stay at least 3-4 steps ahead of the traffic up here, because if you don't, only bad things are going to happen. And everyone knows that they call New York City the city it devours wheels, the devourer of wheels, and it's the truth. But you have to ride like your life depends on it up here, and it really does, because people do not pay attention while they're driving. They get in up here, and it's just every driver for themselves. That is how things run up here in New York. So you have to be a very aggressive New York City rider, especially on your AEC. You gotta ride aggressive. And again, hats off to them. Some of the best EUC riders to me, some of my favorites come out of New York. And I respect the guys. Big props to them. For me, I'm going to start riding in the city more. I'm going to upgrade my wheel. It's coming very soon. I think I made my choice. I love the Tesla, but I think the Tesla, I need something with slightly more speed and a slightly wider tire. I think for me to feel 100% safe in a city. And I'm not going to feel 100% safe. I don't want to feel 100% safe, because it will keep me, on guard when I'm riding. And believe it or not, the first time that I rode my EUC in New York City was at the NYC Broadway bomb. The Broadway bomb, you guys saw that video. You've seen some of the other videos. EVX put a really good video out. Actually, what's good, if you can go back to the EVX video, you'll see me in there. And to show you how, I was just deep, I was just focused on riding. EVX rode right up next to me, and I didn't even realize he was beside me. That's how in the zone I was when I was riding at NYC. I was like, I'm not wrecking, I'm not getting run over. I'm just gonna focus until I get to the finish line. And I did. And I go back and I look at EVX's video. I was laughing. I even told him, EVX, I still owe you some donuts, dude. And I didn't even mean to ignore him. I just couldn't hear him. I was just straight focused, boom. Let me stay in my zone, and I want to make it from point A to point B in one place. And it was fun, the Broadway bomb, but at the same time, it's no freaking joke, man. You gotta ride for your life. But yeah, so New York City, in a nutshell, completely different animal. If you've never ridden an EUC up here, don't knock it until you try it. You won't understand why these guys ride the way that they do unless you ride up here. You can't walk the same in New York City as you do in other cities. You understand what I mean? Everything is different. You always got to be on the lookout for something. I've seen it all. I've seen bikers go down. I've seen bikers get hit by cars, pedestrians hit by cars. It's no joke. And I think, especially I'll end with this story. I was going up 8th Avenue, and this taxi cab had cut this messenger off, and he ends up coming off his bike. Now, his bike was toward the back end of the car. They're arguing back and forth. Taxi cab driver saying what he's going to do, blah, blah, blah. I just started getting really heated. All of a sudden, man, messenger takes this big, thick link chain that they used to wear around their waist with a lock on it. Anyone that lives in New York and has seen messengers make their deliveries, they know exactly what I'm talking about, those big chains. He whipped that thing off in a blink of an eye, and just knocked out the whole back window of the cab, jumped on his bike, took off up a one-way street, and was gone. You know what I mean? And these are the types of things that you would see. So riding in New York, you got to ride for keeps. Like, you see people blowing through lights and things like that. A lot of times, if it's clear, it's safer to blow through the light than to stop. Because if you stop, you might have 3-4 delivery trucks and a bus blaring up your butt. And they're in their eyes, they're on a mission just to keep on going. You know what I mean? So again, you have to know the rules of the road up here in NYC, because they're completely different than riding anywhere else. So anyway, I'm Sensei. Hope you enjoyed story time today. You ride your wheel like you hate it. Hello. Good night.